Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure. Because if you go at something and you fail and you're an achiever, you don't fail. You go, I learned something, I'll just try something else. Right. I'm going to still get there. But when you succeed and you're not happy, you're technically screwed. So a perfect example of this, I mentioned in the seminar you were there because it hit me about a year and a month ago, we lost what I consider a national treasure, Robin Williams. And I asked people, how many of you love Robin Williams? Everybody raised their hand all around the world, right? He made people laugh, people were touched by him. So how good was he at the science of achievement? I mean, he wanted to be a great comedian and make the whole world laugh, he did. He wanted to have his own TV show, he did. He wanted the #1 show, he did it. He wanted to make movies, he did. He wanted to have an Academy Award for not being funny. Dramatic, and he did it, right?
He did it, yeah.
He said he wanted a beautiful family. He achieved everything, and he hung himself.
That's crazy.
And I know recently someone's saying, well, you know, he had dementia, he had drug abuse, he had alcohol abuse most of his life because he made everybody happy but whom?
Himself.
That's the ultimate failure. So if I had no other message to offer your viewers, and you let me give it to them right now, please. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force, decisions. I certainly believe in force greater than myself, call it God if you will, grace, whatever you want to call it, the universe. But I also believe it gives us choices. And the decisions we make control us much more than the conditions we meet. It's not the conditions, it's your decisions. Decisions of what to believe, decisions of what to do, decisions of what to give. I say to people, think about, you know, look back 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, and think of a decision you made. That if you would have made a different decision, you'd have a totally different life today. Better or worse, I don't know, but totally different. The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're going to live in a beautiful state. All of our suffering as human beings, the decision to say, I am not going to suffer, that if suffering arises, pain's one thing, suffering's another. Suffering is when you're like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is a very famous Indian industrialist and billionaire guy. And he just recently took a sport in India that's been around 2,000 years that almost every village child plays, and he turned it into a professional sport. No one had ever made a professional sport 2 years ago. He invested, I don't know, I'm making the number up, $20 million in it. In 2 years, the sport is so successful in India that 500 million people watched the finals.
That's amazing.
2 months ago. 500 million people, right? So 500 million, that's how it is in India. And people are saying this is going to be as big as, for them cricket is the ultimate thing, right? Big as cricket. So his team valuation, I'm making the number up, I think it's gone to like $500 million in 2 years from, $25 million. And his team is number 2 in the whole world, right? Wow. He's got these great players. So I'm with him, and he gets a phone call. And he's just got done telling me about this great success and where it is and how proud he is and how everyone goes to games and people are so thrilled and it's just become this movement in India and he created, he's so proud of it. And he gets this phone call, and the phone call is from his management team telling him that one of his competitors has just offered 4 times as much money as he was offering to his top 3 athletes who are the core of his whole team. And of course they all took them, right? And he was so angry. He was like, I can't even believe this. These guys were working in shops, and I brought them here, and I made them a star on national television, and they have no loyalty to me. And he's suffering. And the way you suffer is you focus on yourself. Suffering comes when we obsess about ourselves, what we're getting or not getting, what we should have done, what others should have done for us. It's the me game. You, my dear friend, and I say this with no blowing smoke, your primary core is a giver, which is why you're prospering. You're not the me. You're like, how do I give more, do more, share more, create more? How do we do a better job for our clients? How do we do a better job for our internal customers who work with us, our partners? Your entire life is that. That's why you're prospering. And you're not feeling suffering. But when you do suffer, and I promise you do, you correct me if I'm wrong, it'll because you're worrying about something in the future. How's this going to happen? Will this come together? Suffering can be worry, it can be anger, it can be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you want to serve greater than yourself.
That if you sow some good stuff out here, if you make it your business how you give your life, to give the best that you have, to give love, to give encouragement, to give help, to give support, if that's what your life is about, Whatever you put out here, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you it's going to come back. Now, the reason that most people don't give is because they operate out of a consciousness of scarcity. They don't believe that there's enough to go around. They can't see themselves having the capacity to give. They don't believe that they have anything to offer. They don't see themselves as an opening for the universe to work through. So if you begin to look at this new era that we're in, begin to see yourself as an opening for the universe to move through, to work through, to make a difference in life. See yourself being used by life to improve the quality of life, to expand and to grow. Most people have a very limited view of themselves and a very limited view of the universe, do not see their relationship to the universe, and cannot see how energy and things can flow through them. I love Gibran and the prophet. Then said a rich man, speak to us of giving, and he answered, you give but little when you give of your possessions, but it's when you give of yourself that you truly give. Gibran goes on to say, there are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And we know people who give only to be recognized. I love that old saying, judge a man not by what he does, but by that he doesn't have to do. And to judge the true quality of a man is what he'll do when nobody's looking. Gibran goes on to say something else important. He says, and there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life. See, most people don't give, ladies and gentlemen, because they don't believe in life. Most people don't give because they don't understand the abundance in life. And so they go through life holding back on life, not understanding this also, that what you hold back from life, life holds back from you. So most of us go through life, ladies and gentlemen, not giving, and we're cheating ourselves, and you're also cheating life. See, I believe that all of us have some work to do. I strongly believe that each one of us showed up to do something, that each one of us showed up to contribute something to life, and that if we don't do it, it will not be done.
I thought it was more important for you to understand that your heart needed to be in the right place, that your motives needed to be right, that you were motivated not by greed, and that you're not motivated by trying to get stuff, but that when you understand the right motivation behind it, and trusting God and doing things out of the love of God and seeking God as the priority in your life and not seeking things, then about time we got to the point of talking about giving, you would understand that it's giving with the right heart. It's giving proven to yourself you can trust God. It is giving out of the right motivation, and that you would understand at this point that if you don't have the right motivation, and if you're not motivated by love, then your giving will have zero benefit to you. Other people may benefit out of your giving to them, but you won't benefit in any supernatural way if you don't understand the right motive and the right reason behind it all. And the fact that God has created this system for us, he didn't create this system for himself. And so today I am going to talk about the obvious piece, and that piece is about being a giver. One of the things that Taffy and I have come to understand is there is something so significant that happens in the life of a believer when they begin to give. At that point, maybe we didn't understand all the intricate details that were involved in why people seem to, be able to get a hold of spiritual things and the things of God once they started giving. And yet it's a vital thing. It's just to be very blunt with you that now we know that if you're not giving, you're not really trusting God. Now we know that giving is proof that you trust God, that you can say, I trust God, but how do you authenticate that trust? You authenticate it through your giving. And so I want to go through several scriptures here today and to show you the promises that God has made to people who will be givers. and that God's not asking you to give because he's trying to get something from you. Now, some preachers may ask you to give because they're trying to get something from you, but God set the system up for you. And remember, it is not the giving of money that's responsible for the manifestations of what grace has made available. It is you giving, proving that you trust. It is trust that will withdraw what grace has made available. And your giving is the only way that you really prove that you trust God, because Jesus talked about being faithful in the area of the least. And money is the least use of your faith in the kingdom of God. And somehow, some way, he knew that if you could give money and give financially, that you wouldn't allow money to be your source, but God would always be your source, and you would use money to serve God rather than serving money and believing that it could take care of everything in your life. And so let's look at the importance of giving. And this morning I want to call this sermon The Power of Giving. And let's begin in St. John chapter 3, verse 16. And he says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but they should have everlasting life." One of the things we've established here is that God is a giver. God trusted that what he gave in Jesus would be enough to be the answer for mankind. And so he gave his only begotten Son. He gave something very expensive, something very valuable, the most valuable thing that heaven possessed. But God gave it. He so loved us, he gave. So you see the connection between the love and giving. What was his motivation for giving his Son? His love. What should be our motivation for giving? Love. And when love is your motivation for giving, according to 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 3, he says you can give all your goods to the poor, to feed the poor. You can give your body to be burned or go through burnout, but if you don't do it with love, it profits you nothing. So everything we do, whether it's giving, whether it's serving the poor, whether it's ministering in whatever area of ministry, if it's not motivated by love, the benefit to you will always be zero.